All right, welcome everybody. The time being arrived at 7:05 p.m. It's Monday, January 12th. We will start our meeting. I will read off the following disclosure. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the June 30, 2027 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune in to the meeting may do so via Zoom. So with that, I will call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. And I did want to note that we do have in attendance tonight as guests Chief Del Monte, the town manager, Justin Casanova Davis, and Ashley Perez, also from the finance department. But I did want to make a note to folks that when we do start work on our items here tonight, the chief will need to get going, so we might need to move some items around. So first off, we will do item B, approval of meeting minutes from January 27th. January 5th, 2026. I'm skipping ahead. Did we have any chance to read them? Comments, questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Higgins. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Sullivan. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item C, public comment. Before starting public comment, I wish to remind residents and individuals watching, please state your name and address for the record so we may have it on file as part of our meeting minutes. Anybody willing to make a public comment or offer a public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, no public comment this evening. So we will now move on to item D, old business. We actually have two items that we were dealing with previously. I know members in general, we were looking to have various questions asked and answered. And I believe I will start off with letter D, item A, order OFY 26-042, transfer order general fund capital plan transfers. As part of this, I will hand it over to Lori and Justin as to what we'll be dealing with tonight. And just to piggyback on that, I believe Chief Del Monte is here to answer some questions related to this particular order. So.
Yeah, right. Chief, I'm going to toss it right to Chief because I know there were some questions posed about some of the ceiling capital expenses as well as the radio repeater system. So Chief Del Monte can just jump right into it because I do know he's time restricted.
What?
Thank you, Justin. Just a couple of items that are on there. As you know, I think the town manager and the finance director have already discussed the need for the maintenance plan on the cruisers, the three vehicles, the two marked and the one service vehicle. The two other remaining items are important to us. One is to replace our current repeater, which is about 15 years old. They have a general shelf life of about 10 years. As you know, that is the central point of our communications system. I don't want to go too far into it. We have two other sites that are antenna sites, and if anybody has any specific questions about that, I'd probably talk to you offline about locations and connectivity and those kinds of things. The repeater is vital to our communications. What you may not be aware of is our communications. We have had problems for years for a variety of reasons in Bridgewater. There is a corridor of dead space for whatever reason that we've been dealing with. It goes from the NIP across to Vernon Street. It's existed, well, I guess as long as I know of. So repeater strength and antenna strength is vitally important. We've done some things in the recent years to improve that, and we need to make sure that we're on top of the repeater. The reason that we're doing it now is one, we want to improve the repeater strength. As I've said to you, we continue to have some connectivity problems with officers in buildings in particular, even with buildings that have BDAs, bidirectional amplifiers in there required according to code. We still have some problems, so we're trying to adjust for that. And what this will allow us to do is replace the repeater and the battery backup system for that repeater. And the one that we replace will become our backup system. So should our new one fail or be destroyed for whatever reason, lightning strike or purposeful damage or whatever it may be, we would still have a backup piece to that. And as I said, it is the hub of our communication system. The other item that remains on there is a project to seal the building. We've been told for many, many years, goes back to our former town building inspector had reminded us that is a block masonry building. It has never been sealed. And there were things that he observed, and I suspect have continued since then. The building needs to be sealed. And so that's been a project that we have had on the capital plan for years. And I would just remind you, the building is now 22 years old. It is our one and only primary operating building, with the exception of our outbuilding in the back. And getting that done is a priority for us. So I'd be happy to take any questions about those two other projects that we just, or all of them for that matter, if you have any.
Alrighty. So I will open it up to members. I know some of you probably sent in questions. If you want to repeat your questions here, so that the chief can answer them. If you have any for Chief Del Monte, you may do so now.
I do, Chief.
Okay, Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, thank you for coming today, number one. So I did have one of the questions on the ceiling of the building. Have we gotten 3 quotes on that? Because it does seem kind of expensive at $50,000. So it just was, I think that was one of the questions I'd sent in to Lori.
Yeah, great question. We have not. What we have done is we have anecdotally spoken to some contractors about what it would take to get the building. You know, one of the solutions we had hoped to have is the sheriff's department actually do it for us, which would save us a tremendous amount of money. The problem is they are unavailable. We had used them in the previous few months, painting the inside of the station. It's always something we tried to do. Unfortunately, that's not an option for us. And we do need to get the building done. So we have not actually solicited 3 quotes. What we have done is spoken to a few contractors who have the ability to do this and kind of gave us a ballpark on where we should be. The good news is that if we allocate the funds, whatever funds that we're able to save in a competitive process, certainly would go back to the town. They would not retain with the police department. But we think that the number that you have there is probably adequate for the project at hand. If I know you may not have been at the building, Mr. Higgins, the back of the building is actually 2 full floors. So this is a project that doesn't require somebody on a ladder, you know, with a pole and a roller. They have to go into the flashing, and from what I'm told from the contracts, much more knowledgeable than me. It's not as simple as that, especially with the number of windows that we have in the size of the building. So we think that number is accurate to cover it. We're hoping that it will come in less than that. And, you know, but we have not solicited quotes. And to tell you the truth, if I had been doing that all along, at this stage, nobody would give me a quote anyway. We've had this project on here for several years. And at this stage, had I gone to the contractor and asked for a specific on paper quote, it wouldn't even be in the ballpark anymore anyway. So, but we have solicited the experts to try to help us, give us some sense of it.
Okay, thank you for that. And then on the repeater, do we have the same issue with the fire department as well? And how do they overcome that? Or because again, it seems like I've never ever got a quote on a repeater. I have no idea why it would be 50 grand as opposed to 20 grand. But in this day and age, I mean, it seems like both departments should have the same issue. And how can we address it maybe as or both ways, or is that just not possible?
Oh, no, great question. In fact, we have done that. So we are on opposite cycles. So the fire department replaced their communication system last year or the year before through the capital plan. And we were a benefactor of that. We're waiting for our third antenna to come online. And that is a part of that fire department project. So we've actually seen or are hoping to realize some improvement from their project. They switched over, as I said, maybe it was 2 years ago in the capital plan. They completely redid their system, including repeater, They are on a different system and network than we are. One of the problems that we have is, and I guess this is public knowledge, we are on the T-band. We are on the 484 spectrum. And one of the problems, one of the modern problems with that is many of your television stations on certain nights interfere with our system. There's nothing we can do about it, and it's the overwhelming power of some of the TV broadcasts, and it has to do with where we are. We cannot, there are not a lot of bands available for us to jump to. And so as a result, we have to make the most of the system that we have. So there are a couple of nights a year, we'll get a warning from our contractor, Industrial Communications, about the atmospheric conditions. I used to think it was hocus pocus, but it turns out there is some validity to it, that combination working against us. So having a repeater that is software connected, has the hardware that is modern, is very, very important to us. One of the other pieces, which I forgot to mention, is this will also, part of this is not just simply the repeater and the backup battery system for that repeater. It is also to upgrade. We have 3 positions in our police station, and it is to upgrade the hardware and PC equipment for our radio base stations as well.
Did anybody else have any questions? All right. So, I guess the other thing I would ask is, did anybody else have any other questions for the chief, since we still have him here?
I don't. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
No problem, Mr. Higgins. So I think we have all the questions that we needed to ask of the chief. Chief, thank you for coming to this meeting this evening. I know that if members have any additional questions in the future on, when the new repeater would be implemented or anything like that of that sort, certain members can send those questions to Josh, and we can then relay them to you. So if you need to get going, definitely feel free to do so, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, MJ. Thank you, everyone.
Chief.
Yep. Hand it back to members here, 042. Are there any other questions that members had relating to this order? I know that we had specified to folks that they needed to have their questions submitted in time so that Lori or the finance department or the town manager could get back to us. So did members send in questions? I just want to make sure if you have, you can remind us here and we can get the answers.
MJ, through you, I did send in questions, and one of I'm kind of trying to just figure out the process here. So the 2025 capital budget, did we spend it all? And if we did, what was on the 2025, and how does that work accounting wise, Lori? So what did we what was asked for, what was appropriated, and what was turned back, or what went over?
That's a great question, John. I can't remember if I was supposed to send that to you or not. I apologize. Did you ask for that from me?
I did as a follow-up email, just so I could understand the process, because I saw in this one, and you did answer that, where we've actually got a gift from Bridgewater Estate, or there's a gift in an account, but we're using it to offset the total amount of the capital request. And I thought
for the truck, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a different way of accounting for it. And so it opened my mind up to say, okay, well, what did we do in 2025 and what was turned back? And
right. I apologize. I don't have that in front of me. I can look at the order that was passed last year and give you that total and overall. But the thing to understand, just like the 6-wheeler that we asked for 10,000, it cost 35,000. The highway super had another plow in the queue, and he said he could wait a year, maybe 2, because he's been taking good care of the new ones that he's been able to get over the past few years. So he came across this, I guess it's called a number 2 18 6-wheeler that was in an auction because he's always selling the old equipment back, which not selling back, but sells it to the auction firm. And then, we take that money and that money is deposited and returned to the general fund. And if you're looking at a report, it comes back under miscellaneous revenue. So anything that the town sells or gets money that's not accounted for or not budgeted, it's a miscellaneous revenue, and it always comes into the general fund. So a lot of times, I think we talked about the insurance recovery fund, that if, we have some money available for insurance claims or things like that, that goes into a special fund, but if it's not used or there's no return on that, everything goes back to the general fund. By law, we have to turn everything over back to the general fund, which is the operating annual fund that's closed out yearly. So he actually had some availability in the gift fund from the university, and he wanted to get this big vehicle that now, instead of costing 180,000 there, about 200,000 to build these new 6-wheelers that are we'll have to probably look to maybe 2 years to lease one, right? So that's a good use of we call it other available funds. And as far as even when the chief was talking today about the quotes for the things that he needs, say that the sealant comes in at 35,000. So that once the project's done, we pay the vendor, that money is closed back out to, well, not right away, but at the end of the year, we look at all the projects that are closed out and we do a transfer back to the general fund. So in your revenue report, you'll see that in the bottom. I think it's at the end in the 900 categories, but it'll be transfers from special revenues or transfer from capital fund. Sorry, there's a lot of things that go back into the general fund, but the appropriation gives us flexibility to fix things. If other available funds come up, we absolutely will use that first and then try to have a savings back to the town. Like if we got a grant all of a sudden popped up that said, oh, you can seal your town buildings with this, and we have 50,000 sitting there, we're going to go get the grant and use that, and then whatever the difference is, and then put the money back. So we're always returning the funds back. And I can get you an exact number as far as what 2025 has, closed out and gone back to the general fund, but it is in the revenue reports. And sometimes when it turns into, we're doing our free cash analysis, and we'll come back to that cycle of when we close the books, you'll see miscellaneous revenue and there's $100,000 in there, for things that we get from an auction or equipment that we've funded through the capital program, comes back to the general fund. If one of these vehicles that they're buying new, or the police vehicles are the same thing, so it all comes back and is repurposed back to the general fund. But I will get you, I'll send it to all the members, what was voted at last year and then what's returned and still open. So when we take these appropriations, they don't have to be closed out every year, like the operating budget. The operating budget, we close out and start new with our operations. These capital projects, they're outlay pay as you go, or whatever you want to call. We're paying for something that we don't want to borrow for. So we sorry, I lost my train of thought. Like but we do continue sometimes you go out to get a quote and things take longer, or the contractor has to order parts for, like, you know, a new HVAC or whatever it is. So sometimes they might take a year or two to get done. So, you know, it might not be finished at the end of the fiscal year or things like that. Or we might have to wait till the spring to do this sealant, and maybe it's not done in June, so it gets rolled over into the next fiscal year when the project's actually done. So I hope that might give you guys a feeling of, sometimes these funds and these projects are multi-years, or they can carry on for a little bit. But usually buying the vehicles, and even as much as buying the vehicles you think would be a yearly thing, sometimes, like with the ambulances, and some of the vehicles are, you know, they're 16 months out, or, you know, they have to build the machinery. So, you know, you have to order things. So it's not as bad as it was like 2 or 3 years ago. It was, you know, a delay in ordering anything for big equipment, and certain contractors were booked up and you couldn't get them in. So things kind of had to continue for various reasons. But that's why, you know, the appropriation does give us flexibility, like, you know, to cover it. But we're always looking for, you know, alternative funding or grant funding or anything to offset any cost that the taxpayers are asked to appropriate. So.
Okay, well, yeah, I kind of figured that, but I guess from the overall standpoint, I gave this a lot of thought because, you know, I did, you know, we carried this over because we had more questions. And as I think about this, other than the IT part of it myself, I can't tell you whether this is good, bad, or indifferent. You guys are in the weeds every day with it. But as I looked at it, so the free cash that we came in for the capital stabilization fund, it's at 2.5 million at the beginning of this year. We're going to hit it for about 1.583 if we approve everything here. And then you have another $70 million, which you're going to do over the next 4 or 5 years. How does the math work on this? I mean, because that tells me we're down to $1 million. So we're going to have to fund 68 or $69 million to get that list taken care of over the next 4 or 5 years. So I can't quite put my arms around it. That's almost, to me, it means half the stuff, or more than half the stuff on this list will never get done.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is, you know, we don't buy 10 cars a year, you know, we buy a few here and there, or and a lot of the projects in that plan are, you know, roadways, you know, big ticket things that we have to fix. There's big things in all the buildings, you know, that we also,
I understand, Lloyd, but
yeah.
where is the money going to come from to do? As to me, the gap is about $68 million over
Well,
a 5-year period.
Yeah, in capital, you know, we borrow and we bond, and currently in the last few years since I've been here, you know, we did, you know, we got a debt exclusion for buildings, right? To get a debt exclusion for a bunch of equipment, you know, is asking the voters to increase their tax base. So, you know, we have to plan it, time it, and make sure it's strategically in front of the voters. You know, maybe when the debt comes off for other items, like, you know, the old high school will be coming off in 2 years. So we know we will have some room maybe to think about bonding for some of these big ticket things. But to understand what the free cash does annually is, we can't fix everything in the operations budget and plan for it, right? It's just not enough money. I mean, you know, you take the annual budget, you take all your receipts, you estimate, you get them in, you pay your bills, you operate the town, you operate, you know, public safety, all the departments and everything. Taking all that money, you spend all the money, and then at the end of the year, you close. And here you have this pot of excess money. It doesn't go into, you know, stocks or long-term thing. It sits there. We get it certified by the DOR, and we have annually been able to appropriate for capital needs up. And a lot of this equipment, just like the infrastructure problems you see going on, there was no snow plows, 10 years ago. Like everything was on fumes. So we're slowly building up to be, to have the equipment to take care of the buildings. We want to take care of this academy building, right? So all the buildings, all the schools in Bridgewater, it's all on the Bridgewater responsibility side. So that's what a lot of the capital in that plan is, and it's a wish and a needs list, and we try our best to prioritize and figure out how we're going to be able to successfully take care of some things. So. I know that's a long-winded answer, John, but I can
It
let
is.
Justin weigh in a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
want to
too.
add to it. Lori did a good job there. I think it highlighted a lot of things that I would mention too. But I think as a synopsis, John, and for the rest of the committee, is that even you just heard, for example, Chief Del Monte say the ceiling, they've put that on for several years and it's just never got right. So obviously a capital improvement plan is a 5-year plan. You got to put the 5-year out. It's a noticing document, right? But on an annual basis, we're evaluating those things and evaluating what we have the financial capability to do or not to do. Some projects obviously might be debt exclusions. Some might be pay-as-you-go projects like what we're considering here. Some might be earmarks that we eventually apply for and get for. For example, we're talking a lot about water infrastructure and, water earmarks and grants that we're applying for. But it's important to get the data out there so the community sees what those needs are, John. And you're absolutely right. Do we have the capability over 5 years to do $6 to $8 million worth of projects using pay as you go? No, we don't, because our free cash is generally the free cash amount that we have had. But it's important to put that information out there, and on an annual basis, we evaluate those things. But Lori gave a lot of the nuggets there, but that would be my synopsis.
Well, then I'll say one more thing then as we go through this. So we've got a capital plan here, and in my world, there would also be a way to go finance that capital plan over the next 4 years. I think that would be helpful not just for the committee members, but for everybody to understand that I mean, part of the plan is that we're going to put some of this stuff into some kind of a debt, and how are we planning that out, and what's it going to be? Because I think we need to be really honest with everybody out there, because we've got some unfunded liabilities. We've got huge water projects, sewer projects, and we need to understand what exactly the process is going to be. If people are expecting us to pave roads and we can't do that without getting an override, then we need to be honest with that. Or we can't put up $70 million worth of capital projects and fund it at the rate of $1.5 million a year. It's just not going to work,
Right.
in my mind. So
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot to do. There has been a lot to do, and I think trying to navigate it without increasing everybody's tax bill, that's what it boils down to. So, we hadn't had a town manager for 2 years, so, trying to come up with a plan in the last few years has been difficult without some direction, right? The council, had to go through, everything's a process, and I know I say that a lot. But if you don't have a town manager, how can you go out and ask people to pay for, a plan that's 2 years old, or you know what I mean? So we're updating everything, Justin's done an amazing job in 6 months trying to come in and swallow down all the needs of the community, but we are always trying to improve things, and explain, and this stuff has been out there for the last few years. There's just hasn't been that appetite to fund it all. So
Well, one of the things related to that is obviously before I came to Bridgewater, you guys know like my background is sort of financially related, and so I did look at a lot of the documents that were available before us, John, and to the committee. And I do think, and I want to give credit to Lori and the team because this capital improvement program is pretty in depth in the sense, and I didn't notice it initially. So I have to say this: when I looked at it, it was at some points it's difficult to read a little bit, but then it's clear once you understand it. But if you look at in the capital improvement program, for example, on a lot of some of these projects that are outlined in the various pages, at the top there's these acronyms at the top, and there's acronyms within the documents, and it might say AFS. So alternative financial source. It may have ambulance receipts reserved, et cetera. And so a lot of these different projects have these acronyms next to them that sort of highlight what a potential funding source is. And to correlate what Lori said, for example, in roadways, which was a lot, right? And I think we're all aware that we did a debt exclusion to try to supplement roadways. You'll see that a lot of these roadway improvement projects does say debt exclusion related to it, or I'll say WD related to it. And that acronym, Lori, you might have to help me with the WD, but I'm assuming it's water debt, but correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong. So we do highlight them in there. And like I said, it's obviously looking, you're putting a 5-year plan out there, but you're looking at an annual basis and adjusting as necessary. But John, we do agree with you. And I think that's part of why we put the capital out there so early and why we'll talk about budget is we've got to look at the aptitude of residents and the capability to pay it. And also, what do we want to get done too, right? Because believe me, we've had a lot of comments about we want all the water infrastructure resolved. We want all the roadways resolved. It's a significant amount of money. So we're not going to be able to do it all as pay as you go. We're not going to be able to do it with Chapter 90 funding, clearly. So how do we get there? So we absolutely agree with you. You're right.
Well, I'll say one last thing. Sorry, can't keep my mouth shut some days, but I know, for example, Justin. I mean, Laura, you said we didn't have a town manager. I think we had somebody was substituting for till we got a permanent one. So that probably isn't totally true, but I don't think it would make much of a difference. But for example, we've decided we need to focus on efforts in capital and debt. And so if we would understand how you guys are thinking about this, so let's put together maybe a sheet saying, okay, here's exactly how we're going to fund each of these so that we can see what's going to flow through the current operating budget or the current cash flow as opposed to what we're going to go out and bond. Because I mean, you guys have to have that in mind because we're going to hit a limit at some point. I know the enterprise funds are different or set asides, but I mean, we have to look at this from one taxpayer standpoint. So
yeah, I think we're acknowledging. I think we've done that work in the capital, and I'm sure you guys had mentioned that you're doing some subcommittees. We'll dive into it even further with you guys there, so we can pull off the lid and explain to you how we look at these things, how we plan at this. No problem to do that. That's something that we've done, and like I said, in the capital improvement program, it does highlight kind of the various buckets of funds that we look at right now that might be funded that method.
Thank you, John. Did any other members have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
MJ, I do have one comment. So
Okay.
I would vote for this thing, except for I think that I would like to see more done on the IT side. I saw the explanation that came through, but I don't agree that it's a detailed enough analysis. And I don't agree with the replacement of laptops until we take a look at it a little bit more closer. But I don't know if it's all or nothing.
Justin, I believe it's just an up or down vote on this whole thing, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. John, your comment is noted. So it is an all or nothing affair with this particular item, and I suspect it'll be the same way with the next item that comes after it. So I would expect that if we've had enough conversation on this and folks don't have any additional questions that they wish to ask, this may be the point in time where someone offers the motion to take action on this.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Ms. Sullivan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lightford. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
No.
Dana,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Josh, what was the tally number on that for me?
4-1.
4-1. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, Order Order O-FY 26-045, adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. So we did previously talk about this item before. We moved it to the next meeting after that, and I believe this was the next meeting after that point. Folks were asked again to submit questions to Josh to be shared with the finance department in the hopes of getting answers as desired. If folks wanted to restate their questions that they shared, you may do so. But I will leave it up to those who were able to answer the questions for us to share their findings and give that insight, and then the committee will then go ahead and take their actions. So just to check, Josh, were there any questions submitted for this particular item?
Outside of John's questions, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Laurie, Justin, were you guys able to look at those questions on this one from Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, I think so the questions that we got from John, I think we sent out, I believe we did, right? We sent the Excel out with some responses in there and said, some
Yeah.
we would obviously discuss in the meeting. I think one other thing that we added, for example, I know there was a question about ADA. So we included the ADA assessment for the library there. Want to get feedback from you guys if you think that's helpful, because obviously we want to get you the information that you're looking for and want to be as collaborative with you as possible. So I do think we addressed the questions we've received. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but I'm pretty sure we did.
So Justin, you did. I mean, I did see that analysis, and the only thing I had on the library analysis was in the 1 to 2 year priority category, it was only about $100,000, and I think in the detail that came through the capital budget, it's about 140 grand. But I'm not going to split hairs over that. But Lori or whoever answered it did send back all the things I needed to be answered. And
yeah. No, John, I'm glad you referenced that because we submitted, for example, the ADA assessment component of it. And obviously for us, ADA was important. I think if you look at the capital for this year, we try to tackle some of the ADA issues there, largely library and recreation. We've got a comprehensive report for a variety of buildings, and there's millions of dollars associated with ADA, and obviously we can't do all that. But, in terms of the library, for example, we tackled some of the issues that have kind of rolled over the year, and we wanted to make some progress on the library. So that's why it's a little bit more than just the ADA portion of it. So I know you did your homework and you looked at it. So thank you for looking at it.
I did, but I'm going to hold firm on this CP or the preservation funds being used to replace the windows. We voted for windows at a third-party building, and that went through as a maintenance item. I don't know why we can't do it on a building of our own. I don't know if it's approximately the same age, but I'll let you guys fight that fight. But it seems to me like that's a no-brainer,
Lori, you want to chime in? I'll give my sort of perspective of this after you if you like. But
are you talking about the library with the Green Communities grant?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the CPC funds. I know that you're waiting for a grant out there, but I don't even know why the windows are on here, because if we don't get the grant, we should go right back and ask them from the CPC and ask them to give us the money to replace the windows.
Well, yeah.
Lori, let me take this one.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of
Get your thoughts, but I'll take this one. John, one of the things that I highlighted when we did the budget and finance subcommittee for the council, and the CPC chair and vice chair were there at that meeting as well, and obviously I've had conversations with them. One of the things that I want to explore doing a little bit better is making sure we're collaborating with the CPC to find eligible projects and supplementing CPC funding with some of the capital needs that we have. But the intricacy with this one is we did put the capital a lot quicker and sooner than we typically do. And so for example, when we applied for some Green Communities funds for a vehicle, for example, we received it, but because there was no appropriation of funds for it, we would have been excluded from applying for any other grants for the next cycle. And so what we didn't want to do was we didn't want that to occur, for example, these windows. This is probably something that we will collaborate with the CPC on and submit something before them. But the notion is the CPC has to approve those projects as well, right? So what I didn't want to have happen is we submit this green community grant application, which we did submit. And let's say for some reason, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's say for some reason CPC said no. And if we didn't have the allocation of funds, either we're limited from applying for green communities grants funding until we get funding for it, or we just return the funds and we're not able to do the project. So this is a high priority. We want to make sure it's done. So that's why we have this allocation. If the CPC provides some funding for it, we're not going to, like Lori had mentioned before, we're not going to use those funds. But I wanted to have that flexibility. That's probably something we've said a few times, have flexibility to address the needs. But definitely recreation, there's the, historic buildings, et cetera. We can utilize those CPC funds, and we're going to have to supplement some of these capital projects. But it does go to them, and they've got to approve those submissions that we submit.
I appreciate that answer, Justin. That's part of the reason why I asked for the 220 or 2025 so that we can follow these projects through. Because I do understand. I mean, you got to put yourself out there a little bit, but as a committee, I mean, we deal with this once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or once a year, and to try and remember all this stuff. I mean, it's leaking out my ears right now. I can't retain it all, so it's paper helps.
Wait till the budget, John. Wait, you just wait.
I've got all my questions written down.
Yeah, no, of course you do.
Ready? Did any other members have any questions or comments regarding this particular item?
I just wanted to thank for the extra time. It was helpful to have a few extra weeks to go through it. You guys really did a lot of work to put this together, and it was nice to have time to digest it and really think through everything. And the answers we've gotten have been really thoughtful. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Did any other members want to say anything or have any comments or want to take an opportunity to say anything regarding the measure?
I'm going to vote in a negative way just because of the IT part of this. I think that I need to see a more deeper understanding of the cost of the whole IT department before I go off and vote for $500,000 to start upgrading server rooms. So
duly noted, Mr. Higgins. All right. If there aren't any other comments, I will entertain a motion if that is the pleasure of the committee. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Leifer. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Sullivan. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
no.
Dana,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All
And that
right,
was 4 to
thank
1.
you. All right, thank you, Josh.
MJ,
All right.
can I just chime in real quick before you move to the next agenda? I know we
Sure thing,
got things to
Justin.
do, but I appreciate Dana saying thank you to the team for the work they did. But we also want to thank you as well. Lori and I have talked about this, and I think this is part of our conversation with MJ and obviously your subcommittees to see how we can be supportive of you and give you the information too. But we're glad you're looking at this. We're glad you're asking the questions because, especially for a finance group, and I have two other members of our team. What we don't appreciate, and I think MJ can say this, when you put the work into it, and let's say there aren't any questions or things, sometimes it's easier, but we actually enjoy these questions. So I'm glad you guys took the time that you needed to evaluate that. So we appreciate the thanks, but we appreciate you guys doing that work as well. So we want to say that back to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Justin. While those of us who are in municipal government, this is, our, this is old hat for most of us. Those of us who are not in the field of municipal government, this is certainly new, undiscovered country for them, and it's a good learning experience for both sides. One for how those of us who are public volunteers wish to ask government questions of what they do on a daily basis and how they operate, and then for government to learn from the experience as well. So I do appreciate that. So that being said, we'll move on to new business. Order OFY 26-046, acceptance of donation, Oliari Charitable Foundation. I'm just going to scroll down to that and just see if I can get through the documentation here. Bear with me. Alrighty, so the explanation for this item is the Oliari Charitable Foundation has graciously donated $45,000 to be split equally between the Bridgewater Police Department, the Bridgewater Fire Department, and the Bridgewater Public Library, and the funds are to be used for the sole discretion of those respective departments. To give us some additional information, Laurie and Justin, I will yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Oliari family is very, generous to the town departments. So they funded this, I think, last year and maybe for 2 years. What the police has done with this is they've offered, I forget what they're called, but there's a company that comes in with a big machine, like a scan machine, that will do a health check on all the officers. And it's something that, is the insurance doesn't cover when you want to say, oh, I want to get a scan for whatever. But they have in public safety some grants that they've had allowing us over, I think 2 years ago, we were allotted this grant, and it gave the public safety staff an opportunity to have a health check, body scans, make sure they're healthy, and it was a really great tool for the chiefs and the management staff to have this healthy item done. Like I wish I could walk in and get a scan and say, okay, what's going on? But this actually will fund the police of doing this. I think the fire, for some reason, gets grants for this type of work because they're, involved in breathing in, chemicals and things like that. So it's a great opportunity for the police to be able to do this for their staff with this gift fund. I think the fire told me they were going to supplement some equipment for the new station that wasn't covered by any of our budgetary parts of our project fund or of course their operating fund. And the library is using this fund to buy furniture, outdated old things to for their groups and their the story times and various programs that they hold there. So they're doing a really good job at trying to renovate things, that are outside our budgetary flex. So hope that helps for this donation.
Thank you, Laurie. Are there any members who have any questions or comments regarding this item before us? Certainly not one to turn away good money, and the Oliari Foundation has been very helpful to the town over the years. I know they did help a significant amount to get Marathon Park up and running and helping to maintain it a little bit. There were some donations in the past also, I believe, for our Legion Field as well. And I know Mr. Oliari, Mark Oliari, who was a former select board member here in town, his family is very involved in the community, and we greatly appreciate not only his family's service, but also their continued willingness to help the town. So that being said, if there aren't any other comments, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept made by Mr. Higgins. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lightford. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dana,
Hi.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, thank you everyone. Now moving on to our next item of new business. Order OFY 26-047, acceptance of a donation from the Bridgewater Police Association. Bridgewater Police Association has donated $1,050 to the Bridgewater Veterans Office to be used at the sole discretion of the Veterans Agent to support the mission of the Veterans Office. That being said, I will hand this over to Laurie and to Justin to give us a little bit more detail of this kind donation by the BPA to our Veterans Department.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I think Justin spoke with the Veterans Agent. I'm not really too sure what he had plans to use this money, but I know he helps out when he can. And again, the Veterans Agent does a lot of extracurricular things to keep the veterans safe and fills them with, if they need things. I know at Christmas time there was a lot of donations and Mr. Martin went out of his way to involve the community to help our veterans. So sometimes, when he wants to buy them lunch or dinner or whatever, it's not always, appropriate for general fund expenditures because, and when he gets money like this, he can take a veteran out for dinner or lunch and talk and spend some discretionary funds. But I'll let Justin chime in if he knows anything else that he might be using the money for.
Nope, that was perfect, Lori. There isn't anything defined from our veterans agent regarding that, but that flexibility to do some of that work. A lot of veterans agents, when they go above and beyond, they like to have that personal touch, and that's what this flexibility allows with that donation from BPA. So we're appreciative of that, and I know Greg is appreciative of it as well.
And the police union are obviously, very generous to the community as well. So they see this need and, they're happy to help out. So.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Justin. I definitely have to say, the BPA as an organization is a very good organization. It is made up of our law enforcement, and they are always willing to jump to help out. And our veterans agent, our veterans department, I have to say, our new veterans agent steps in a proud tradition of very good agents. I know I remember one particular, Roddy Walsh, who also was our fire chief at one point, another good gentleman as well, also very helpful to our veterans in town. So seeing this type of collaboration between the association and the town is certainly one that is greatly appreciated. As someone who also has family who are veterans who serve themselves, it's good to see when veteran agents are able to reach out to our military service members who've served this country and continue to do so even when they are out of service or have retired from service. So it is really nice to see this be offered up. If there are any other questions or comments, members may speak to them now. All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept made by Mr. Higgins. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lyford. Josh, roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Alrighty, thank you. And I believe that was a unanimous of 5-0.
Yes.
Is that correct, Josh? Excellent. Thank you. So now we'll move on to additional items for discussion. I myself, as chair, do not have anything additional to discuss tonight other than just want to let everyone know that the subcommittee on capital plan and capital planning will have its inaugural meeting on January 20th at 6:30 p.m. So that is going to be taking place. And that's basically all I have for tonight. So
I have one item.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan, what you got?
We have to reschedule our subcommittee meeting because it conflicts with the joint committee meeting for the budget next week.
Okay. Do you have an idea of when you folks wish to reschedule? I believe you have most of your members here tonight, right?
Yeah. John, do you have a preference?
I was going to ask that joint committee. I'm going to be out of town, so will that be available via dial in or no?
As far as I'm aware, Josh or Justin, you might be able to answer us. The joint meeting between school committee, finance committee, and council, what's going to be the nature of that for broadcast?
I don't think it's gonna be like allow for remote participation. This is coming from the school end. I don't know. I saw Ryan on Friday and I saw the makeup of the room and I don't necessarily think it's configured for like hybrid meetings. But we can double back on that, John and group, but I'm pretty sure it is gonna be
Yeah,
hybrid.
when I received the invitation, there was no Zoom link available.
Zoom, yeah.
Okay.
So Dana, with that being said, I can meet via Zoom anytime. Whatever is available for you and Nick, I can fit it into my schedule.
Okay. Can we do maybe Thursday the 22nd then instead of Wednesday? Same time?
Sure.
All right. So 7:30 on the 22nd will be our first.
Yep. And then Dana, if you just wouldn't mind just emailing me the agenda items and just a request.
Excellent. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, Dana. That's really helpful. And this is one of those things I want to make sure we still continue to have in open meetings is this type of open communication, because it helps keep us honest, it keeps the public informed, and we can make changes when we need to, as we are a group. If there are no other additional items offered for discussion, I would say we can move on to our most favorite item of the meetings, usually, the adjournment of meeting. So if we don't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. Lightford. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Miss Sullivan. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dana,
Hi.
Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone.